joining you from Nairobi, currently based in Nairobi, and happy to have you onto the call. So I'll just take you through a brief of what CloudPlexo does, what we do, and then we'll dive deep into the AWS solutions, as well as Checkpoint, who will be joining us today here for the call. All right. At CloudPlexo, so we empower organizations across Africa and beyond to build secure, scalable, and cost optimization environments. As an AWS Advanced Partner, we help startups, enterprises, public sector clients to adopt cloud technology in the right way. From migration to DevOps, disaster recovery, cost optimization, and cybersecurity, we handle all. We have our bases across Africa. So currently where I'm seated is in Kenya. We also have a base in Nigeria, in Ghana. Our newest kid on the block is South Africa, still and doing very, very well. Our headquarters are in the UK, and we're hoping to grow our footprint. We've also done several works within Tunisia and Rwanda within this continent, and hoping to grow our footprint across Africa. So to just dive deep into today's agenda, so we will do just a deep dive onto CloudPlexo, which I'll be taking you through right now. And then we'll do a small video just to showcase what is the importance of having a disaster recovery solution within the environment. And then I'll hand it over to Muredi, who's our solutions architect from AWS, to take us through disaster recovery tools, the well-architected way. And then we have Felix, who is joining us and representing Checkpoint on today's call. So Felix is from DGIT, one of our partners, and he'll be taking us to Checkpoint. And then we have Frederick from our team, who show us how to navigate the AWS Marketplace and how to buy some of those solutions from there. And then we'll have an interactive Q&A session. But that doesn't mean if you have any questions currently, or when somebody is presenting or somebody is speaking, please go to the chat and just drop your comments there, and we'll be happy to take them from there. So a few things on what we do here at CloudPlexo in terms of helping you with your cloud maturity. So we help businesses with their cloud and business continuity, and the purpose of this webinar today is actually on business continuity. A deep dive onto that. We also do help our clients with localized billing. So with whichever currency that you have, we are able to assist you with your billing payments through AWS. At CloudPlexo, we believe in cost optimizations. A lot of conversations when you're having in regards to cloud is always tailored towards cost. So at CloudPlexo, we did develop our own proprietorship platform. It's called Wendu. It helps us with cost and security optimization to ensure that when it comes to your billing, no idle resources are eating up your bandwidth, and we help you optimize those costs from Wendu. We also do help and support with technical support. So be it at a startup level or an enterprise level, we have different packages with regards to technical support and how we're able to assist you on that. On the startup front, we do help our startups access AWS credits. We've worked with over 2,000 startups across the continent just to ensure that they are concentrating on their business as we focus on their IT solutions. We also do a lot of immersion days and hands-on labs just to ensure that if you are building a case for your management or your board level, you can bring us on board and we can assist you to make that case for you. So we do a lot of those immersion days and ensuring that you're actually delivering the technology message and delivering ROI to your board members and your management teams. In regards to generative AI, data analytics, and ML integrations, we do it all here at CloudPlexo. So if you want to buy a ready-made solution or if you want to develop a solution for yourself, I think we are the right people to go to. In regards to purchases on the AWS Marketplace, we'll also take you through that today. Just how do you go and navigate the AWS Marketplace? What are some of the best fit solutions for you and your organizations? You come to us, we do the consultation for you, and then help you do the purchase from that front. And then we have infrastructure due diligence, something we like to call infrastructure as a service. We also offer that here, as well as proof of concepts to ensure that as you're buying something, you've had the try and buy experience that is tailor-made for you and your company. So that's just a brief overview of what we do here at CloudPlexo, and we're hoping to do more engagements with you. Yeah. So I'll play you a short video as we continue, just to show you the power of a business recovery framework and why it is important to have it with you. Let me know if you can hear the video. Okay, so as we deep dive into today's topic, firewalls and beyond, it's important to recognize the resilience in our digital age. It's not just about prevention, it's about preparation, rapid recovery, and continuous protection. That is why we brought together two of the most trusted names in cloud and cybersecurity. So we have AWS, the world's leading cloud provider, known for its scalable infrastructure, the power of disaster recovery capabilities. So today you'll hear from an AWS expert on how to design a resilient system using a well-architected framework. Systems that recover quickly, scale efficiently, and remain remain compliant even under pressure. And then we also have Checkpoint, who is a Gartner-recognized leader in cybersecurity, protecting over 100,000 organizations worldwide. We'll see how Checkpoint, CloudGuard, Harmony, and the SASE solutions work together to block advanced threats before they reach your environment. So whether you are running on cloud, on-prem, or a hybrid environment, AWS together with Checkpoint are a powerful and formidable powerhouse that any business would be lucky to have within their environment. So I'll just invite Muredi. So I'll just stop and stop sharing my screen to invite Muredi to come in and give us his presentation for today. To just kick it off, Muredi brings a wealth of experience helping organizations design resilient, scalable, and secure architectures in cloud. So today he'll be walking us through real-world disaster recovery use cases and tools grounded in AWS well-architected framework. So the floor is yours, Muredi.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate the CloudPlexo team from having me here today. I also appreciate everyone for joining the session. I hope my screen is visible. I am not able to tell from the kind of lost
Yes.
all right, great. So my name is Muredi Gitonga. I'm a cloud optimization solution architect based in EMEA region. And what cloud optimization is basically enabling our customers to get the most value from their workloads on AWS and ensuring that they are using the best practices to ensure they get that um, value from using AWS. So today we're going to be looking at what disaster recovery is. We're going to look at some use cases and some of the tools that you can use on AWS. And of course, the best practices, which are essentially advised by the well-architected framework, which is a framework that provides best practice guidance on how to use AWS and build very resilient, cost-effective, reliable, performant, and cost-optimized solutions on AWS. So I'd like to get started with a quote from our CTO of AWS infrastructure. He says everything fails all the time and keeps repeating this. And this is a core mantra on how AWS infrastructure is built. Um, while we say that everything fails all the time, we need to build systems that embrace failure as a natural occurrence. But we don't need to accept that systems should fail. We need to architect systems that should work despite of that failure. And at AWS, the infrastructure is built to abstract the customer from things like network failures, disk failures, power failures, and all this. This is the AWS responsibility of the cloud. We have a model called the shared responsibility model that essentially advises or rather defines the roles of the customer that's on AWS as well as AWS's role. So AWS's role is to build a secure, reliable infrastructure that can withstand failure. However, the customer has the responsibility to do additional um, additional tasks or to ensure that they are more reliable when it comes to the application. Now, when we look at the application landscape of a typical organization, what I have here is what I call or what is known as the cash flow acceleration cycle for any business. And this is where applications are built in an organization or a business. So you'll find you've got a sales cycle. This is where you generate the sale, lead generation, deal closing. And then after you do that, you're obviously going to the delivery part of that. And whether now this will again depends on what industry or vertical or the size of a business, but all businesses will generally have these four areas, and applications are built within these four areas. So you deliver the solution. If you're an online store, the delivery cycle is very short. um, for example, if you're a manufacturer, you need to have applications in production management, inventory management, you need R&D, and then of course you have your billing cycle. Organization work for years to perfect this because this is how they create value for their customers as well. And applications are built to support these key functions in a business. However, you'd find in an organization as well, we have applications that are built to support these functions. So, for example, you'd find while HR is an important part of the business, it's not on this cycle, right? But it's a supporting um, application that you need. For example, in your environment, you're probably going to build tools that the engineers are using within the environment in research and dev. They've built their own repository where they can share information and stuff like that. So that's how an organization ends up with thousands of applications. However, within all that, you need to define what is core to you as a business. And when it comes to disaster, what are the applications that would ensure that um, the continuity of your business? And it's good to refocus your attention to these four areas. Our customers tell us a lot about this because they look at the environments and they find that they've got thousands of applications. But you need to look at your environment and find what is core to the business. Now, in that in mind, we need to remember. Sorry, I think move quickly there. So when it comes to resiliency, we have disaster recovery and we have availability. Availability is what we maintain day to day. For example, in an on-premise data center, say a disk has failed, so you can go ahead and replace that. There's a network failure, maybe one of the links is under load on the network, or there's a device that has a power supply. That would be availability. And a lot of businesses are able to handle availability pretty well, actually. What a lot of organizations, however, are not prepared for is disaster recovery. This is where a lot goes wrong, when something really goes wrong that can affect the continuity of your business. However, having these two, disaster recovery and resiliency, is very important, and availability rather, is very important to ensure resiliency. Now, where do disasters come from? They come mainly from human actions, for example, security breaches, natural disasters. Now, when it comes to AWS placement of regions and availability zones, we do factor some of this in. However, natural disasters can always happen as well. You can't quite plan for them, but you need to be ready for them for um, continuity of the business. Technical failures, power failures, they also happen. Like I said, everything fails all the time. You need to build systems that continue to work despite of these failures. Now, where do you start, right? Now we have the well AWS well architected framework, and this is a set of best practices based on um, years of experience um, and feedback from our customers as well. And this set of best practices help organizations not to start from scratch. You can build and destroy and deploy faster in confidence, knowing that you're using best practices that have been tried and tested, right? You can lower and mitigate risk by following the well architected framework as well, and the best practices defined there. You can also make informed decisions because you're using a well tested framework that's been there for a really long time. You also get to learn about AWS best practices and kind of embed them into your day to day operations, and also decision making that can allow you to build resilient applications. Now, the well architected framework has 6 pillars. We're obviously going to be focusing on reliability today. Um, However, for you to achieve reliability, of course, you need to have security. You need to be operationally excellent, right? You need to have performance efficiency. You need to have cost optimization and sustainability as well based on your goals of your organization. But we're going to be dialing in on reliability um, for today. I'm happy to cover this on a later session, but we'll, it's important to note that a combination of all the other pillars help you achieve reliability. Now, we cannot talk about disaster recovery without defining recovery point objective and the recovery time objective, the RPO and the RTO. So I described earlier that in an organization or a business, you're going to have many applications, and the recovery point objective, that's how much data you can afford to recreate or lose for the application, will vary depending on the criticality of the application in the environment. For example, the key areas I noted earlier, your sales, your delivery, your production, and billing, you could you could have those being like your lowest RPO. All right. You can't lose data, or you'd rather have near real time um, RPO for those systems. And the recovery time objective defines how quickly can you recover when something has happened. How quickly can you recover? Now, if you're a business, you're looking at this from a value point of view. What's the cost of you being down? Because building resilient systems also has a cost factor to it. So you want, or rather, you want to determine what's the value of that workload for you to justify the type or architecture that you're going to have for its resiliency, right? That's coupled with the recovery point objective. Now, if I'll give an example here. So if you've got um, a financial system that is very critical, for example, for a country, it's used, say, for international payments between countries. You want to have near real time, near zero RPO. In the same organization, you're probably going to have um, a tool that users in the organization use to convert files securely, possibly. That's not a critical application. It could, while they use it, possibly, they can do with the application going down, depending on it's used for, going down for a couple of hours, and they can recover and continue. So that's why you need to define this as a policy in your business continuity plan. What's your RTO and RPO, and define the critical workloads that come with that. Now, components of real-time objective. One is how quickly can you detect whenever something has happened. If you don't set up mechanisms here, um, it doesn't matter how well you've architected your environment, you're not going able to be able to recover quickly. Detection never has to be a human thing. You need to automate this based on the best practices. You can have the failover to be triggered by a human or automatically, but detection never has to be human. That's one of the best practices to keep in mind. Of course, the flow would be you detect, you notify, you escalate, you declare if you want to failover, and then failover. The first part is what I need to emphasize, that you you cannot have a human there. For example, if you're running a critical workload that's running on a round the clock basis, for example. Now, let's look at some use cases. So I'll start with this one. So I have a website. I have a retail store, for example. I have invested in stores all around the country, for example. And I have a website as well where I sell my goods. Um, Now, while the website is important for my sales, I need to refocus mainly on my physical stores. So I have a workload. It's a website. Um, it's got a database, right? So what I do is I do a backup and restore. I don't want to lose data from that database or my inventory data. So what I do is I just do backup and restore. This is the most cost-effective um, disaster recovery method, backup and restore, compared to the others. The implementation would be a single AWS region. You're performing daily backups to our simple storage service using AWS backup, and the database is backing up using relational database service automated backups, using configuration management to make sure that you can launch infrastructure onto using the backed up data as quickly as possible. But there is no pressure here. You can go up to 24 hours if you'd like to. There is no urgency to it because of the value of the application. Remember, that's why it should all start. What's the value of it? Um, and you monthly DR testing, you've implemented that, and um, sales have been growing on the websites. You've probably implemented some cross-region backup copies, so you're not only on one region. So it would be a typical backup and restore. The second one would be pilot light, and the cost tends to increase here. So on this setup, the use case is you probably have a critical application. The RTO is less than 24 hours, probably on the 12-hour mark or the 1 hour mark, and that's when you want to be up and running. So you will ensure that you have core database replication happening between regions. You you've you've created some machine images that you can launch onto your disaster recovery site quickly and recover. All right, but they're not running. You just put them there. Whenever there is need, you'll then work to to bring them back up again. Now this would be for a critical application, but you wouldn't say that it's um, a business critical application that would justify the next one. This is a warm standby. This means you've set up what would be sort of a replica of your production site in another AWS region. Now you have your main region running and another one, and you have somewhat of a replica. All right, you're doing continuous data replication. The demands here are on the 30-minute mark in terms of
Anyway,
the recovery time.
buona.
The recovery time. All right. So
Huwag
you
pagkakalitar
would
lipad.
have an active passive Aurora global table, for example. That's a
Masusuri mo
database that
ano?
is stretched out across regions. For example, you'd have the warm standby scaled down. So when it can when a disaster, when you detect a disaster, you just scale up the number of servers or instances that you have on your disaster recovery side.
Wish.
That way you have a minimal bit of the application running. As part of the testing, you could do what we call split traffic, where you can send, let's say, 10% of the request coming in to the warm standby in some cases, just to make sure you're able to test it regularly as well. This would be for a business critical application. And a lot of business critical applications use this format. Of course, the cost is higher because you have a warm standby, a almost replica environment running at the DR side or this disaster recovery side. Now, this finally, we have the hot standby and sometimes the active um, architecture or use case. This is for an application that has near real time or zero RPO, zero RTO recovery time. Of course, this has to be highly automated. It's complex. You need to duplicate your partner connectivity on both sides of the infrastructure if it's multi-region. You definitely need to use multi-region. Um, this is for core critical business functions, applications that you can never have going down. For example, your financial institution, or you're an industry that's or for example, you're dealing with um, aircraft control or anything like that. Think of any application that you cannot imagine going down. The complexity and cost of this architecture needs to be justifiable, though. It needs to be an application that can never go down. Here you're using application recovery, Route 53 application recovery controller, which is able to detect um, when there is a failure So your detection mechanism has been fine-tuned. You test it on a regular basis. And sometimes you run and switch between the two regions or sets of infrastructure regularly just to make sure that it's running correctly. All right. So just as a summary, we've started with backup and restore use case. Simple application, lower cost. Um, RTO is hours. Pilot light, you're looking at 10 minutes of downtime. Warm standby, you're again looking at a minute. All right. And then we have active passive, or sometimes active active, where you have near real time. You don't want to lose a single request when there is an issue. All right. So what are some of the services that are involved in achieving these architectures? One of them is Elastic Disaster Recovery Service. Um, this is an example of an environment with a data center, um, on-premise data center, and AWS is being used as a DR site here. We've got agents installed on the disks, and replication is happening continuously, and we've got instant recovery instances that are receiving this data that is being replicated between the subnets from AWS to the customer's data center in this case. Now, when a disaster happens, um, Elastic Disaster Recovery Service will go ahead and launch the recovery instances, change the DNS routing and all that, and the traffic can now use AWS as a disaster recovery site. So it's just one of the examples of the services you can use. We've got a whole bunch of services that are involved in a disaster recovery journey. Um, Engaging cloud partners like CloudPlexo can help you navigate and determine what services work best for you. For example, you'd use S3 to store your files, make sure you don't lose them. Depending on the criticality of the application, we have non-SQL database, DynamoDB, for example. We have SQL-based Aurora that you can create global tables on, or you can create clusters that span regions out of. Just to mention a few, I couldn't fit all the services on the slide here because building a disaster recovery um, solution does require, for example, detection. So we have an event-driven architecture. You need, for example, to use CloudWatch to detect whenever there is a failure, right? Remember, detection has to be spot on for you to be able to trigger your recovery plan as quickly as possible. A disaster recovery plan as well cannot work without the team knowing what to do. You need the team that has been able to drill, everyone knows what to do, and that's where training comes in as well as part of the solution. Now, just to recap the reliability design principles. One, you have to automatically recover from failure, depending on the human loop on recovery and mainly on detection. Can hamper your ability to recover successfully and meet your business continuity goals, your RPO and your RTO. Next, you need to test regularly your recovery procedures. Remember, this doesn't depends on both people, process, and of course, a well-architected infrastructure. Thirdly, scale horizontally to increase aggregate workload availability. So instead of trying to instead of trying to um, to have one large workload, you can scale horizontally um, to you can add the number of nodes to increase your availability. All right. Instead of having one resource that you scale vertically, not the size of the workload, but multiple small workloads. Stop guessing capacity. That's one of the causes of lack of reliability or availability, because you've someone has guessed capacity and now your systems are under load. Lastly, um, or before last, manage change through automation. Managing change through automation allows you to evacuate, for example, a region. That's when you have your resources in a CloudFormation template or Terraform. You can evacuate region A on AWS and go to another region B whenever there's a disaster within minutes. Um, all right. Thank you so much for listening in. Please take a moment to just share feedback about the session. I had about 25 minutes on the session today. Um, I'm happy to discuss more details and more topics with you, with everyone, rather. Yeah, take a moment, tell us what you thought about the sessions. If you learned something, share feedback as well. I think, Anne, I can hand over to you for just, we can pick two questions that I can answer.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Ray. We just have one question from someone from the comment section from Moses. Moses was asking, what does the cost with the dollar sign mean in your presentation? I think he wants to know more about that as well.
Okay, that's a great question. So, what I was trying to depict is depending on the workload, you'll have and the use case you choose or your disaster recovery architecture that you choose, whether it's backup and restore or pilot light, the cost increases based on the architecture you choose and your RPO and RTO demands. If you want an application that cannot go down, you're going to probably have a warm standby. That means you have your primary infrastructure and then you have a standby infrastructure just sitting there waiting for something to happen. But that's why I started by showing you that you need to justify the architecture you select based on the value to the organization. So you start with applications that cannot fail at all, right? Applications that cannot withstand, or you cannot afford, or you can think of it this way. If this application fails, how much money do I lose? Or how much revenue do I lose? How much customer trust do I lose? Does that value justify you having a standby infrastructure, for example, or going for the hot standby use case that we talked about? If it doesn't, then you don't need to do that. You probably need to maybe go for the warm standby. It could be you just need to go all the way to backup and restore. You can take 24 hours to recover from that. Now, the cost itself, a number value will vary depending on the resources, the complexity of the solution, and stuff like that. I'm happy to discuss that with you further. I don't know who asked the questions, but we can
That
dive
was
a bit deep into
Moses.
that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. That was Moses. Han, do you want to take the other questions?
Yeah, so there is one I think that is important to go through. How do you recommend testing disaster recovery to ensure true readiness, specific metrics, or test scenarios that matter? Can you
Okay.
maybe take us through that one?
That's a great question. I like it. So when it comes to testing, you can do one, introduce chaos. Can engineer some chaos here. In here we have actually a service called fault injection service. It's going to tamper with somewhere in your infrastructure, and
Mm.
your team should be able, or your infrastructure should be able to um, work despite of that fault that has been introduced. um, Introduce game days into your culture. A game day is a day where all the people involved in the disaster recovery plan come together and you can simulate all kinds of scenarios. Practice makes perfect. So try to engineer this. All right. Good thing about being on the cloud is you can create a whole environment, and after your test, you can tear it down, right? You can build an environment replicating your own as quickly as possible, actually, and you can test it, you can drill it, but bring people and process and, of course, automation into your testing as much as possible. The key thing is actually how early you can detect that something has happened and the whole team knowing exactly what to do. The key metrics is one, you can focus on the ones that we actually talked about. How much data have you lost? All right, your RPO and your recovery time objective. Have you been able to meet it during your tests or your game days? So I would really encourage. There are, of course, other metrics depending on the industry. There's some people during their testing, they measure stuff like failed request count. They can equate this to an actual monetary value that we've lost. Um, and response time, detection time, and those are some of the metrics that you can define. We have some metrics that are defined on the well-architected reliability pillar as well. You're welcome to look at into that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, good
Go ahead.
afternoon.
Akina.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon. I just want to confirm. In a situation like ours, we are a microfinance bank. So I want to know what kind of architecture, I mean, data recovery site architecture that will benefit us because we are trying to move into cloud and so the kind of um, um, architecture, I mean, a cloud architecture that will benefit us in time of deployment of we have the core banking application, we have the e-channel application. So the question is, going by your professional experience, so what kind of architecture do you think will be likely okay for us in order for us to have a reliability service across our infrastructure line?
All right. Thank you so much for that question. And my answer is actually going to sound very generic, and that's because we need to work backwards from what is the business value. Otherwise, you could build a disaster recovery solution that does not justify the workload actually having a certain type of architecture. Um, I'll take you back to this slide here. Please just indulge me. And Anne, please keep me on a time check. All
Yeah,
right.
actually, we are just over, so I think maybe you can round it
Yeah. All
up.
right. I'll take a minute. So, any of these solution can actually work for your environment. You can just have a backup and restore where you can that takes hours for you to recover whenever there is a failure. You could have Pilot Light, which is 10 minutes. You could have Warm Standby, which is now down to a minute. Or you can have real time where you don't have to lose any request. But what I would like to, and I would like to have this conversation further with you and CloudPlexo team is what's your business continuity plan looking like, and what is the value of that workload to you in terms of um how long you can allow it, and the cost that justifies you to build what architecture. All right.
Okay.
um
Okay.
Yes, I'm happy to have that discussion further with you. Please, someone from the CloudPlexo team can actually get your contact, and I'm happy to advance that discussion with you. Thank you so much for asking the question.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akim. We'll definitely have somebody reach out to you on that question. Come in, set up some KPIs on your disaster recovery, and then take it from there. Just to be cognizant of time, we will take the other questions in the chat during our Q&A. But thank you so much, Muredi, for showing us the well-architected way when it comes to disaster recovery. So I'll just shout out to Felix. Good, thank you, to start presenting on his slide. So Felix is representing Checkpoint today. So he's gonna take us through his presentation, which will be focusing on cybersecurity, because resilience isn't just about recovery, it's about real-time preparation. So Felix joining us from DGIT, representing Checkpoint, a global cybersecurity leader by Gartner for 24 consecutive years. Now that is a milestone. Felix will show us how CloudGuard, Harmony, and SASE are helping organizations like yours prevent sophisticated threats across cloud, endpoints, and network environments. With real insights from the field. So you can take it from there, Felix. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. I hope I'm audible enough and my screen is visible.
Yes.
Great. So thank you again for the session, and thank you, Mariti, for taking us through the infrastructure part of it. So I'll be taking you through the security part as well. And I'm representing Data Group IT, which is a distributor for Checkpoint products across Africa. So as you know, again, cloud computing is a growing market, and with an expanding customer base, with cloud today's security devices on cloud, devices on premise, basically generate voluminous amounts of data, and it can make it really difficult to understand if the systems have been compromised or not. So Checkpoint comes in here, and Checkpoint, the ethos that Checkpoint has is prevention, not detection, because by the time you actually detect that a threat is inside your infrastructure, your application or your device, it's already too late. Checkpoint has been around for a while, so been in security for the last 30 years, and the mission has been to secure the digital world basically for everyone, everywhere, from pioneering firewall technologies to fueling the next generation of intelligent security with, of course, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Checkpoint remains at the forefront of basically, again, safeguarding different organizations. So like was mentioned before, there is the infrastructure part of the cloud, which is properly represented by the cloud providers. And the cloud providers, AWS, Azure, and others, are able to provide bits of security on their own. That is to access the cloud platform, what part of access you as a client require. And we come in and offer extra security on top of it. So security of the cloud basically would refer to measures taken by the cloud provider themselves to protect the infrastructure and the services that go therein, like hardware, the software, the networking bits, containers, such and such. Security in the cloud, on the other hand, would refer to the measures that you as the customers take to secure your data. So if data scrolling across databases, across emails, across different domains, how exactly do you make sure that this does not get to the wrong hands, that people do not actually access bits and pieces of your network that they're not supposed to access and such? Basically, what I mean by this is the vulnerabilities that are there on the different domains that are covered by cloud are quite a number, and we look at a few just to mention, because cloud security is quite broad. We might not cover everything today, but at least you'll have a general overview of the same. So like I mentioned, security is split between the provider themselves and the third party who's providing the security bit. So the cloud provider, again, likes of AWS, will provide their own bits. The responsibility basically is for connectivity between yourself or your endpoints or your actual production sites and your DR, which might be in clouds, and to stop different attacks that might deter that connectivity. Now, other vendors will come in. They'll sit in between the cloud provider and your production site, for example, or your endpoints that you use on a day-to-day to actually access these sites. So let me just pause my video for a sec. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So other than those two, we have seen that the threats across the different domains are quite a number, from the likes of email, from the likes of HTTP, HTTPS, people accessing different parts of the internet or different parts of the network. There is social engineering, where accounts can actually be hacked, where people actually lose their credentials or credentials get stolen. And for DevOps teams or development teams, we've seen that they do not have proper visibility into everything that goes into production. So they might develop the code, yes, work on the code end to end, but by the time this is being released into production, you might find that there are actual risks that have been incorporated into the UI, the user interface, for example, or the code itself, where the code might not have been signed or does not have proper encryption on top of it. So Checkpoint offers bits and pieces of security to cover the various parts that are already there. And the offerings are quite a number, different modules for different purposes, of course. And these work across different types of industries. So part of the clientele that we have spans across different domains, technology, telcos, basically finance, healthcare, real estate, governments, manufacturing, across the globe. And in Africa, actually, we've done quite a number of projects that cover end-to-end all of this. As was mentioned before, third-party independent labs have indeed confirmed that CloudGuard stands alone to achieving 99.9% on zero-day attacks and malware prevention. So we've heard about a lot of ransomware attacks, malware attacks happening, and Checkpoint is able to mitigate against this and has really been tested by different third-party, again, labs, and makes sure that your environment or your cloud network is not left exposed for a day, for even a couple of hours, and we're able to actually patch any vulnerabilities in real time. So something happens, for example, in the West, and we see that as a vulnerability or as a CVE, it's patched immediately and deployed across all domains that are within the Checkpoint Cloud platform. So with the massive adoption of cloud infrastructure, we've realized that the benefits of the scalability and velocity of this developing new applications is quite a huge thing. And to provide security for this, we've actually developed solutions that cover both private clouds and public clouds. So Checkpoint basically has been known for the on-prem products, which is basically firewalls. If you may remember, for the longest time, when you hear Checkpoint, or if you've heard of Checkpoint before, it was because of a firewall. But these are since widened, and we're able to do quite a bit of things, again, on the cloud platform, emails, endpoints, threat intelligence, quite a number of things, actually. And good thing is we provide one single platform, which in this case is called Infinity. And with Infinity, customers can create and apply different policies seamlessly across either on-premises data centers, private clouds, public clouds, etc. And good thing with this is it can scale. You can manage everything centrally. You can get logs or reports across all these networks across one single platform. Now, to give you an example of how exactly attacks happen. So in a cloud instance, for example, someone might get in through the front door, service door, back door and such. Back door probably would be someone who has the initial code. Front door would basically someone who's lost their credentials and stuff. And the service door, basically, as we know, there are a lot of service accounts that have been spun across. So with root access, super admin access, or even admin access, someone is able to actually mess up a lot of things. So through the front door, for example, people or hackers can actually exploit software vulnerabilities like the OWASP 10, something that's improperly configured. A cloud asset or container that's improperly configured means that someone can actually get into your part of the environment. The other part is a service door, which is made vulnerable from stolen admin credentials. Again, credentials are stolen, and it's very easy for you, if I can indulge you in this, is someone has your LinkedIn profile, for example. They look around, get your social media from Instagram, Facebook, and such. They combine these two, they can actually figure out a name. So my name, for example, could be Felix Monda. I'm using Felix at checkpoints. And when someone is actually trying to get into our environment as checkpoint, they look at Felix Mwenda at checkpoints, Felix at checkpoint, Felix.Mwenda at checkpoint. They'll try all these combinations to actually get in. And they compare my LinkedIn, they compare my Facebook, my Instagram, my X accounts. They'll definitely come up with this. And the other problem is we really reuse our passwords a lot. So you might think that using an old password is quite safe. But think of it this way. You've used a password before. You've just altered something. My initial password, for example, could be password. Then the next time it prompts me, I do password 01. After 2-3 months, I change it to password 92. It's the same thing, and it's very easy actually for someone with a quantum computer to get this cracked immediately, if not in less than 10 minutes. So the attacks are going to come through these different doors and to get into environment. And with the tools that I'm about to talk about, we'll be able to mitigate against this. So quantum is basically the checkpoint equivalent of different firewalls that are there in the market in comparison to the FortiGate, Cisco's, Palo Alto's, and such. So quantum firewalls are what are run on premise. And to compare, CloudGuard has similar firewalls that you can run fully on cloud without the need to actually change anything. So it's more or less like an on-prem firewall without the hardware. And quantum is just the marketing name for it, but the functionality remains similarly the same. And with, again, 99% block rates, it means that with quantum, you're preventing advanced phishing, malware attacks, ransomware attacks, DNS attacks, and much, much more. And if I may say this, the same software engines that run the on-prem solutions are still the ones that are used on the cloud as well. These are some of the key CloudGuard network security capabilities. As you can see, the on-prem version has the usual threat prevention, that is IPS, antivirus, anti-ransomware, anti-malware, and such. Access control, basically, that's provided at the edge or at the perimeter, and very adaptive policies. Now on the cloud, you'll get the same thing, plus a bit more. So there is a wide coverage of what we are able to achieve with this, as opposed to what the on-prem version has. So with this, we can also protect code other than what the on-prem is able to achieve. Protect different cloud vendors, can be spun anywhere. You can do it either as a virtual machine on the cloud or as a service on the cloud, which again can be purchased through the different providers, Azure, AWS, and such, and have the different capabilities work together to provide, again, efficiency and flexibility. Good thing is it's very scalable. You can have an option of pay as you go, where you can just pay to consume exactly what you need at the moment, either increase or decrease it as you need per month, annually, and such. I spoke about the risks initially, and for devs mostly, for developers, people dealing with code on a day-to-day, it means that someone might download an open source code, run it, of course, change bits and pieces, and even deploy it at a data center. And someone can even scale it to 1,000 workloads with a single script. Problem is, whatever has been pushed has not been checked by anyone, either a system, a third party, an AI engine, or anything. And with 100 times velocity and scale, it means that there's a downside to it. Security teams have the headache of now following up the 100 times that was pushed to make sure that there's no potential for security breaches, misconfigurations that were part of the code, permissions. For example, you might see that they forgot to disable the full root access, and the code is already out, people are actually accessing it, and probably by the time they realize, someone is already in the environment. And this happens both with public cloud, private clouds, different setups. So with the cloud network security module specifically, we gain quite a lot, and we're able to prevent different security breaches and incidents which occur across the cloud. This, like I've spoken about before, is about the firewall perspective. So you get data loss prevention as a module, IPS, intrusion prevention service as a module, application control, VPN, IPsec VPN, antivirus, antibot. You even get Sunblast, which offers threat extraction and threat emulation for zero-day attacks. So if something, again, has been discovered in one part of the world, either CV, a vulnerability, something that was pushed to the R&D team, a patch comes out, it will be pushed across, and regardless of whether I'm in a remote part of Africa, that patch should be able to be applied immediately. So again, helping with the zero-day attacks. So on the, again, DevOps part, we're able to do the same and offer efficiency that combines both the developers themselves and the security teams, that is the DevSecOps, and push deployments as perfect by the end of the day. A few use cases to mention. People like we've seen moving or migrating to the cloud a lot, whether it's one part, whether it's emails only, whether it's CRMs, whether it's your HR system, or basically you have a data repository in cloud, either live or a DS in the cloud, means that a lot of data is moving in and out. And at the same time, there is a need to consider there is private data and that which is public. So there's data private view. For example, if you have a Microsoft tenant, you will have a tenant specific to the organization, and you can have your own email address that has a OneDrive, for example, service. This means that for you to move data from your public or from your corporate OneDrive to the personal OneDrive, it requires some permissions for this to be allowed. But in most cases, you find that most organizations do not set these permissions. This can be done by CASB, which is another module, a security broker in the cloud. That's another module offered under the Secure Web Gateway, which can really limit data loss across the cloud. The other bit is segmentation, whether it's micro-segmentation or just regular network segmentation. We can, again, leverage zero trust, where we assume everyone joining or every machine or every device that's trying to join, access something across the domain is a rogue machine or a rogue person, unless they actually identify themselves. We authenticate them and authorize them to view only the part that they're supposed to view. By so doing, it limits, again, data loss, limits scrolling of data across from moving from one tenant to the other and such. And this, again, offers you proper security. The threat prevention, again, with cloud traffic, there's east to west. So it gives you proper protection against any third-party hackers or some third-party people trying to access. Unification of all these clouds, again, whether public, private, whether you have different offerings, whether you have some services on AWS, you have some on Azure, you have some on GCP, we are able to offer, again, protection across everything. So just to speak a little, or to go a bit granular about the private clouds. Private cloud is a form of computing where your infrastructure is dedicated to your organization only. So it resides, I can say, either on-premise in your environment. It could be a colocation site, or maybe an ISP is providing this, or even another third party is providing this with offering a proper off-premise data center, more or less. And as part of this infrastructure, you'll find that people will use different virtualization platforms. VMware, Cisco, Hyper-V, Nutanix, and such. And users within the organization will be able to access this from wherever, since this is open to the corporate staff who are within the environment. And we'll need to actually secure the data that's there, the infrastructure that's there. And to do this, we'll need integrations with different parts or different modules. So we'll see that for the hypervisors, we'll need some special security for it. For the network bits or the edge of the perimeter itself, we'll need special security for it. For any endpoints, actual servers and such. If the applications, either client-facing applications or applications that are inside that are already there, we'll also need to do that. There's public cloud as well. So with public cloud, the likes of, again, Azure, GCP, OCI, AWS, and such, we are able to offer the same. This time, you can actually buy the modules through partners, of course, like CloudPlexo, or directly on the AWS forums, or sorry, portals, where in case it's something specific you need, you can go really granular, really dynamic, get the specific module that you need, and it's really designed for elasticity, for speed, and you can provision literally on the go, depending on the service that you need. For the public cloud, again, you have traffic flowing, again, east-west. So whether it's databases, actual servers, containers, applications, and such, we will be able to protect any external or internal communication, whether it's a continuous integration or continuous delivery or deployment. We'll be able to actually protect the workflow of that automation as well. Let me just go to the posture management, which again looks at the general overview of the assets on the cloud. With CASB, with the CPSM module, you're able to protect quite a number of things, again, that are already in the cloud. And you do not have to rely on third party. So with different alerts coming in from different security tools, if there's a new vulnerability in the code itself or something needs to be addressed, this is the tool to actually pick and to actually deploy. It eliminates a lot of alert fatigue because it's very precise, checks everything that's been onboarded specifically, and reduces your attack surface by a huge, huge margin. For this, you do not require any third-party agents or to install anything to the servers themselves. It will just integrate with the service and you're good to go, you're up and running. The other part is on applications. So applications hosted on the clouds, websites on the clouds need protection as well. So to offer this, there is web application firewalls. Web application firewalls work more or less like actual network firewalls, but in this case, they just protect web applications from a wide range of cyber attacks. So they offer a specialized layer of security that complements the traditional firewalls, which primarily more on the network parts. So these offer HTTP, HTTPS protection, DDoS protection, DNS security, amongst other things. So you're able to protect the actual applications, APIs that you use to integrate between yourselves and third parties and such. On cloud detection and response, we have managed detection and response, which comes either as a managed service or alternatively as something, a module that you can buy and have someone else or third party, either a provider, a reseller, manage it for you. And instead of the alert fatigue, where so many things are coming to the analysts themselves, they just deal with it on your behalf. You just run the solution seamlessly. Again, I mentioned that all this is run from one central console. So you do not need different consoles to run this. All this is run from a console called the Infinity Platform. And the Infinity Platform has quite a number of modules, again, that you can deploy. Not only Cloud Guards, but the likes of SASE products, SD-WAN products, even on-premise products, email products, etc., that all run from this single console. So no need of moving from one console to the next, checking if this has moved or has been seen by say, an endpoint security suite, XDR and such. It's one console. All alerts come into that console. You can push policies centrally from that console and such. So, Anne, I don't know how long I've left.
We have about 5 minutes. Do you want to just run through these really quick?
Okay, so let me just mention Harmony as the last thing for email and collaboration. Then we go to the Q&A.
Okay, thanks.
So for the collaboration suites, different collaboration suites on the cloud, the likes of Microsoft who offer Teams, for example, SharePoint, and other tools, we're able to protect those as well. Cloud email without the need of an actual appliance. So appliances, again, we've seen mostly fail at some point. You have to replace appliances. In case there is an outage of either power, internet, and such, emails are not delivered. So with the Harmony suite, this comes with API integration. You do not need to add anything extra. It's just integrate with your tenants directly, so long as you're on cloud, either GCP, Microsoft, or any other cloud provider, we're able to directly integrate with it. No need to change your MEX records or reroute traffic of your emails. It's just plain integration. You're good to go. It protects everything. Likes of GCP, you're again able to protect everything under the GCP suite, Slack, everything is protected directly from this. And finally, on the SASE, this is a secure access service edge where you are able to protect both the private access and public access. So instead of the regular MPLS where it's rerouted through a tunnel, you're able to actually protect everything from a single suite that is again run centrally. We are open to demos, POCs and such. Again, please reach out to us in case you have any questions or clarifications. Thank you. So I think I'll take questions.
Hey, thank you so much for that, Felix. I have been seeing some hands up during your session. Akim, you want to go?
Okay, yeah. That's nice presentation. So I just want to confirm, though from our hand here, we don't use checkpoint, we use Sophos firewall. So
Okay.
I want to ask, so in case if we want to migrate the Sophos firewall, you know, we already have a lot of rules in there. So and we want to move it to, let's assume we purchase checkpoint. So is it possible to move all the rules? I mean, back up and then move all the rules without us losing any configuration at all. And number two, I learned that you made mention of services that are in on a checkpoint that we can subscribe on a need to have basis or pay on monthly or quarterly basis. I think I heard something like that. So how can all these things fit into our on-prem firewall infrastructure? And lastly, checkpoint at AWS zone. Is it something that we need to subscribe for if needed, or automatically once we are on AWS, we'll have the service? So and also, you know, like I said, we were used to Sophos firewall. So what's the training like for the management of the checkpoint if we decide to acquire it? And what in between the checkpoint and the Sophos firewall, can you tell us the rating? Which one take higher have higher protection among the two firewalls? Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions. They're really good questions. So first, I'd like to say, if you're trying to migrate your rule base, for example, from Sophos to checkpoints, at the moment, there is not a tool really that can do this, not one that I know of. There are tools already in the market that can do this, and it supports, I think, 4 vendors: Cisco, Juniper, Fortinet, and Palo Alto. So for you, it would be to back up the rule base and basically redo the rule base on the new checkpoint platform. Then, okay. So on to the next one, subscription is indeed needed. So once you get the AWS services, you'll need to subscribe or to buy the checkpoint modules or services as standalone on their own to protect whatever you have on the cloud.
Okay.
Then thirdly, yes, indeed, training is offered. So once you acquire the solution, you will definitely get training credits, and you and your team will be able to undergo training and be up to speed.
Okay, that's fine. So I get you on that. You know, you made mention of if we acquire if we subscribe for the AWS on checkpoint on AWS. So how is the integration going to be like? The integration with our environment, and how does it protect other tenants that are closer to us in the AWS environment?
Okay, so depending with the service that you actually acquire, we are able to do direct or API integrations with the different services that are already there with AWS. That's already catered for in the portfolio. So there's nothing extra really for you to do. This will be done by the third party who's implementing it for you. So there is nothing extra from your end needed. It's just purchase the module, have the integration done, you're up and running. Licensing will be per network core.
Oh, okay. So the IAM on cloud, does it support IAM?
It integrates with.
Okay.
It integrates with a lot of identity and access management, but it doesn't have an inbuilt full IAM solution.
Oh, okay. So is this something we'll get differently, or I'm talking about
Yes, but if it's specifically for two-factor or multi-factor authentication and single sign-on, that's already provided for. But if you require other IAM functionalities, then that's from a third party. Yes.
Okay, that's all from. So the one question you have not answered, the difference between using Sophos and AWS, the edge that one have over the other.
I think, Akim, we can just take your contact and have a deep, in-depth session with yourself and your team, just to answer all the questions that you have. Somebody definitely will be in touch from our team, just to be cognizant of time in the program. I think we'll take one more question from Orifayo, please. I'm sorry for butchering your name. I think you can go next.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good afternoon. So this is a nice presentation. So I just want to confirm, one, must we be on AWS before we can have this checkpoints? What of if you're on Microsoft Azure? Second, can it be installed on prem or meant for cloud alone? Thirdly,
Pardon? What was the second question?
the second question is, can it be installed on maybe apart from AWS, if you're on Microsoft Azure? Can it work in that environment?
Yes.
So thirdly, the access control policy is involved. Apart from authentication, what are the other things that you can do? Can you do identity management in terms of application, going down to the application to manage your SQL injection, password and the rest. So, and I think lastly, they said that Plexo contain not just only firewall, it includes antivirus at the same time. So that's just my few questions that I have for now.
Okay, thank you for those as well. So yeah, for the first question, you do not necessarily have to be on AWS. You can be on any other cloud platform, whether it's public cloud or private cloud. You could be on GCP, Microsoft Azure, or anything. We can onboard you on either. On the access control policies, role-based access can actually be achieved with integration with your Active Directory or your Entra ID, whichever one you have. So it will pick whatever has been defined on the AD or on the Entra ID and run with it. It does not have a standalone identity managed platform inbuilt within it. And then for the CM, again, on the identity management, there has been a module called CNAP, which I've not mentioned because CNAP has since been moved to Wiz. Wiz is a subsidiary of Google. As much as Checkpoint is still collaborating with Wiz on this, that's a whole different part of it that we can always discuss. Hope I've answered your question. Okay.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much, Felix. I think you can stick around so that if you have any other questions during the Q&A, you can take them. And then just to wrap up our presentation lineup, we're shifting our focus into something that is often overlooked, but is a huge differentiator in how fast and effective our organization adopts cloud solutions, and that is procurement. So joining us will be Frederick, who is our CloudPlexo solutions architect, specializing in helping our clients not only design secure cloud environments, but also to simplify how they purchase and deploy their solutions. So welcome, Frederick. He will be taking us through how to do your procurement processes in the marketplace, the AWS Marketplace, that is. So Frederick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anne, for the opportunity, and thank you, everybody. So ideally, my name is Frederick Kivirenge. I'm a solutions architect here at CloudPlexo. I'm just going to show you how, when you're logged into the AWS environment, how you'll be able maybe to access the marketplace, and how you'll be able even to purchase Checkpoint CloudGuard, and how easy it is. It's very easy. Just allow me to share my screen, and then I'll just take you through. And then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. So ideally, I've already logged in. So logging in is very easy. You just put in your username and password, and in case you've enabled like 2FA, you just input your 2FA. So when you log into AWS, this is the screen that you get to see, where you have everything. For me, I'm seeing this one because I've interacted with the system before, so some of the systems that I've used. But when you want to go to say to purchase like the CloudPoint, this is how we go. On the top right, there's this search place. You just type in AWS Marketplace. Even if you type just the word market, it will be able just to take you to the right place. And then you'll be able to choose this. And you see this one that has a cut. This is what we're going to choose. You just click on it. And then right here, this is where you'll be able to, it's a single pane where you'll be able to see everything that you've subscribed to. In case you've got other services that you're leveraging, you'll be able to see under your managed services. But if you want to discover or search for something new, so you go to something called under Discover Products. So under Discover Products, so here you'll get like a bunch of services that are offered within AWS Marketplace. Let it load. Search for Checkpoint. checkpoint. So we are using, we want for checkpoint cloud guard, because this is what we want to protect our environment in the cloud. And when you scroll down, you found there's checkpoint cloud guard network security. So you click on it, it will take you on a different tab. And then here you'll be able to see a bunch of information that you want. There's an option to try for free. You can request for offer, you can try, you can see even the purchasing option. Down here, there's a lot of information that is told, it's sold by who, the category it is, and everything about it. Under pricing, as Felix had mentioned earlier, when it comes to cloud, there's something we call metered service. You only pay for what you use. So for checkpoint, it's no exception. You pay, and then you pay for what you use. If you're not using it, you won't pay. And I see they have also a 30-day trial period just for you to feel the product, how it is and how it will integrate within your workload, and then before you purchase it. So at least it gives you that option to see how the product works. Does this work for you before you make those purchase options? And then under here you see, so what will happen when you choose, like you want to use the product. This one will it gives something called an AMI. An AMI in AWS is like an image, Amazon image, something that it deploys to a server called an EC2. So for this case, you see, there's what that is recommended for us. In this case, it will deploy in an EC2, which is a bit cheap, yeah, according to them. But you can choose whatever flavor of server that you want. So EC2 is basically a server in AWS, and then within there you'll be able to see it. And then what happens is when you choose to use it, to purchase it, you'll be able, it will give you the option to deploy it in a VPC. When it comes to the cloud, we've got something called VPC. So VPC is a virtual private network. So this is where it's like a network within the cloud where you host your application. So you'll be able to set it within the a networking segment where your application are, and then you just accept, and then you just purchase. When you place order, and then you purchase. So one thing. So it remember, when you're creating your AWS account, there's that card that you place, maybe that to be used. So it will be able to deduct from that. Yeah, it's just that simple. And then from there, you'll be able to use it. From there, there were questions about IAM. So when it comes to AWS, remember this service that this checkpoint, it is going to provision a server for you, and a server in AWS, we are able to allow using IAM roles. So for example, we've got something called like security groups. So within the security groups, this is where we allow, you say, for example, I want maybe this application maybe to be available here. You can also even set the IAM roles. IAM roles, so that you can say these people can access this server, this thing can do this. So yeah, it is provided for in AWS like natively, the IAM and all that. Yeah. So basically, it's that simple. You go to Marketplace, you choose the product you want, and then you purchase it. Yeah, I don't know if you have any question for me.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Frederick. Anybody has any questions for Frederick? So I think we've just come to.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just for this checkpoint cloud guards network security, is
Yes,
it the same? Is it the same thing with checkpoint, where you define permissible rules?
So I think this one is for cloud, because I remember when Felix was presenting about the checkpoint in general. There's the one that the one for on-premise, and then this one. You see, this one is very specific, cloud.
Okay.
This one
Okay.
is cloud.
Okay.
Yes.
So whatever you can do on on-prem checkpoint, you
Mm.
can also do it using.
Yes. In fact, I think in the documentation that you're showing, that I think it has even more features as compared to the to the hardware on-prem. Yes.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all from me.
Okay, so I think we've come to the most important part of this presentation, which is really to get feedback from you on what we've been presenting. So we've covered a lot, from AWS disaster recovery to real-time threat protection with Checkpoint, and how simple your procurement process can be with AWS Marketplace. Now, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions for any of our speakers, Muredi, Felix, or Fred, please drop them on the chat, or you can just unmute and just ask a quick round of the questions. And while we run through the Q&A, we kindly do ask you to take us 60 seconds to complete our post-webinar survey. So this is important for us because it helps us tailor our conversations better for you. So we usually have monthly webinars here at CloudPlexo. So we'd also want to hear what other topics do you want us to cover in future. So please feel free to fill the survey. The QR code on the screen works. You can also find a direct link to the survey on the chat. So David has been able to paste that for us on the chat. So please feel free and mute your mics, drop your questions on the chat if you're a bit shy on how to go about it. So the first question that probably I'll go through is Jacinta's. She did ask this a while ago. So how is Zero Trust incorporated into the well architecture? So I don't know if Kevin, you can be able to answer that. Really just had to drop off. He had another engagement. So Kelvin, if you can help me with that question. How is Zero Trust incorporated into the well architecture? Or even Felix, if he can answer that for us.
Yeah, Mr. Go ahead with the response.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So basically, the concept of zero trust is not allowing anybody to get access to anything if they've chosen to be the one. If anything can hear you. Is for anyone? Okay. So zero trust, how is zero trust embedded in well-architected framework of AWS? So we'll just talk about, take for instance, using the I am rule, right? During well-architected review, or rather, during well-architected assessment, right? We look out for users with privileged access. Does a user have access to what they are supposed to have access to, or do they have higher access than what they should? Take for instance, if you are like a DevOps engineer, or if you're like an IT person that is just for provisioning infrastructure, why do you have admin access to everything? So these are like different concepts of well-architected review. Take for instance now, your excuse me, do you have to MFA when signing in or when logging into AWS account? Does your root user have access to, of course, your root user have access to different things, right? But do you use root user to access different applications? The credentials that the root user is using, does it have like MFA enabled for that? Then also during zero trust review, you actually audit the logs of the user activities and also what the applications are doing. And equally during well architected review, they will equally advise you, is your application, your server, is it on the public subnet when it should be supposed to be on the private subnet? Is still deep in the public subnet when it's supposed to be in the private subnet? So zero trust methodology is like putting that, or putting like protections and boundaries at the different phases of your environment, and also making sure that any user or any application that have access or that are using that services are the correct users that ought to use the services. That's like a brief one for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other question? I saw a hand that had gone up. Okay. Please let's continue to fill the survey. The link is on the screen. There was one other question. What's the most common mistakes organizations make when implementing AWS disaster recovery? Any real incidences, examples, lessons that we can share? Frederick, do you want to take that for me?
Thank you, Anne. So I think when it comes to disaster recovery, I think the first thing I think that was said by the is first to have a way where you can detect automatically. You find most organizations they do not have like a way maybe to detect that even in the first place, they have a problem on the environment. I think that's one thing. Another mistake that organizations make is to assume that maybe a disaster cannot befall them. I think we've seen it time without number that even the organization that they think they are secure, they have firewalls, they have like IPS, IDS in place, they normally get attacked. So disaster recovery I think is most important so that in case you are hit, at least you have a fallback. So I think that those are some of the mistakes that organizations make, thinking that they are ninjas, they cannot be attacked. Yeah, and maybe how do you recommend testing DR plans to ensure true readiness? I think one of the way that we can ensure is like having the game days and also having simulations. Once in a while, okay, you have a DR, but you don't know if it is working. You have a backup in cloud. You say for example, you have a backup that you took like 2 months ago. You are not sure if the image is working now or if it is working. So doing like a regular testing to make sure that your DR in place is working, I think is a good thing. And then for the metrics, I think you can check the RTO and RPO to make sure, say for example, you have an RPO of say for example like 1 hour or that you need to test to see within this 1 hour is our RPO met, is our RTO met as well. So those are some of the things that we can leverage on those. Yeah.
Okay, so the other question that has come up severally is on IM, and we do have our own platform that is called Wendu that helps clients and organizations like yourselves with their cost management, and it also does have some security features, and one of those security features is in regards to IM. I think Kelvin, you can just take us through the IM feature on Wendu really quick so that we can also be able to answer that question that has come up severally. Over to you, Kelvin.
Yeah. So regarding Wendu, just like my colleague did mention, Wendu is a tool that you use in managing your cloud security posture and costs on AWS. Basically, it's a tool that is able to do a review of your AWS accounts, tell you underutilized resources, overutilized resources, unauthorized, send you notification regarding unauthorized accesses or potential unauthorized accesses, give you notification regarding unprotected keys, unrotated keys, basically give you a general overview of all the potential risk, both security-wise and cost-wise, within your AWS accounts. It works in a way that you can get daily emails. You have a console or a dashboard where you get to view all this through a single pane of glass. Then regarding the IAM aspect, Wendu has a couple of features where it's able to tell you access keys. Let's say there are some access keys that you configure for your application that has excessive permissions for that application. So let's say within that access keys, you have some policies attached to it that is meant to communicate with S3, communicate with EC2, communicate with your RDS database. And where those access keys are being leveraged, it notices that it doesn't get to communicate with, let's say, the RDS is only communicates with EC2 and S3. It's able to notify you of all this. It's also able to tell you it's also able to make recommendations regarding how you can leverage other alternatives rather than making use of like access keys. Let's say like with the use of IAM roles, it's able to let you know when your keys have been exposed. So let's say it became exposed through, let's say, your GitHub repository or somewhere else. It's able to send you notifications as to those keys being exposed. Also lets you know when some users internally have not configured the best practices recommended by AWS, which involves the use of MFA on IAM users. So it's a very robust tool when it comes to your cloud security posture and costs management on the cloud, not just AWS. It also works across other platforms like GCP and Azure.
All right. Thank you, Kelvin, for that. So I think we have come to the end of our session. And I would just like to thank everybody for making time to join us here today. Very good numbers that have turned up for the webinar. If you do have any queries, would like to book a discovery session, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to take you'll be happy to take any questions, book discovery calls with you. We've gone through a lot, and we do also still offer quite a number of services here at CloudPlexo. So please do feel free to reach out to anybody within CloudPlexo. If you don't have any contacts, can scan the QR code, drop your contacts there, and somebody will be able to reach out to you. Yeah. So you can get my contacts, they're here. Scan this QR code to book a direct link to book a direct meeting with us, and we'll be happy to help you. So let's collaborate, let's stay in touch, and thank you once again for joining us for this webinar. Asanteni sana.